Hello, I'm George English, the Director of Research Through People. Surnames. I mean, many of those you who contact us about researching your ancestors are fascinated by surnames, their own surname and the origins, etc. So we're making a series of videos about this, a general one about surnames, and then there are four main types. So we've already made ones about local surnames and surnames of relationship. This one is about surnames of occupation, where they come from, and you'll be familiar with surnames like Smith, Taylor, Miller, Baker. So let's look at this in more detail. Here are the four main types of surname, just to remind you. Local surnames, which may be to do with a local feature like a hill or a wood, the locality, the town, the village and so on, where the person came from, or even nationality, English, Welsh, Scots and so on and so forth. So there's a relationship, typically the son of someone took the name, so John's son would become in England. Different in different countries. In Wales there tend to be a plural, and then in Scotland Mac means son, as it does in Ireland, and O means grandson. We're going to talk here about surnames of occupation. The other main category we'll make another video about is nicknames, which may be as simple as the person was brown complexion, was short, or whatever. Anyway, let's look at surnames of occupation in more detail. And what we've been doing is imagining an ancient medieval village in the 12th, 13th century, etc., when there were no surnames. But surnames evolved, and people got given a surname that was what distinguished them from others. So if we look at this imaginary village in Staffordshire, there would be the lord of the manor, Robert de Stafford. Very often a Norman person took the surname from the place where he lived, where his land was. The people may have come from local villages like Aldridge and Lichfield, and various other categories here. What we want to look at here in particular is those occupations locally. Now, typically there was a smith in every village, a smith of various sorts. There might be a blacksmith, a goldsmith or whatever. Tailor, very common obviously to have a tailor. Sheep, shepherds and so on and so forth. So the way that surnames evolved for those sort of people was people took the name of the occupation or trade that they had. And if you just look at the names, you don't need me to explain the basis way that this evolved. So the particular trades, I mentioned smiths, I mean there were things like arrowsmiths, swordsmiths and so on and so forth. The most common surname in both England and Scotland. A carter, I mentioned tailor. A thatcher, to thatch the roofs of the houses. Occupations, and you could probably add straight away another 10 names to this of things that people did. Bakers, cartwright, cooper. The miller, Wright, various Wrights perhaps, cartwright is one. But you can see the types of occupation that people then just took the name, and obviously they would be referred to. I'm going to go and see the miller, I'm going to go and see the potter. And then office, slightly different, but particularly for people who worked perhaps for the lord of the manor or some servants of some sort. Bate man was the man of Bartholomew. Obviously butler means what it says, page. They might have a particular role, like obviously duke or priest or bishop or knight. Squires was worked for the squire. So you can understand very quickly the basis of occupational surnames. Typically in England, 10 to 20% of the names were that way, less perhaps in Scotland, Wales and Ireland. But another key thing to stress, these names clearly were adopted not because of a blood relationship to anyone. Clearly the descendants of the person had a blood relationship, but do not assume because you have the same name as someone else that therefore you are related. Now, one of the things that can help here is to look at the geographic spread. Typically with surnames like Smith, they're spread all over the place. But then you get less common names, like here we looked at Messenger. And in the 1881 census, you get maps now that have analysed where the name is found most commonly. So you can see the frequency here is in Cumberland, the most frequent name, not all that common, 1 in 800 or so. And then Oxfordshire and Hertfordshire. So a name like a trade could be adopted anywhere, but with the less common names wasn't. And so typically you would find, obviously there were people called Messenger in Cumberland, maybe in Oxfordshire and Hertfordshire. But also something that happened was That's 500 years ago. Someone went from one place to another. And after 500 years, there can be a lot of descendants of that person. So this is the sort of spread I would expect across the country for a less common occupational surname, and maybe other types as well. So I hope that gives you a flavour of what's involved in this. We're here to help. We've made a whole lot of videos that you can see on YouTube. Just search for Research Through People on YouTube. Very happy you want to get in touch. The whole point, we have a free consultation. No point in us saying it's going to cost this. We don't know. Send us your basic information. We'll have a look. And then we come back to you with the options that we suggest. So you know what it's going to cost before we start. We know how far to go with the research. So hope that's helpful. Look forward to hearing from you.